All right, so this video is going to be the basics of cranial nerves and their fiber types. Fiber types of cranial nerves are extremely important when it comes to what they innervate and what their functions are. So these are the 12 cranial nerves. We have 1 through 12. We have olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, and trigeminal, tri meaning 3, has the 3 divisions here. So we have ophthalmic division, maxillary division, and mandibular division. We have 6 being abducens, 7 being facial, 8 vestibulocochlear, 9 being glossopharyngeal, 10 being vagus, 11 being spinal accessory, and 12 being hypoglossal. So the fiber types, I have them all listed here already. We have sensory, motor, and motor. These ones, we have sensory, and then mandibular being both. We have motor, both, sensory, motor, motor. I'm not gonna, talk about these in too much detail because I talked about those in my last video. So mainly, this is just the general fiber type. We're going to go into more specifics on the next page, but mainly this page is to show an acronym that helped me learn these pretty quickly that I just want to share and go over real quick. So I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly, and then I will explain a little bit why the acronym is written this way, even though I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So sensory is going to be some, say, then we get to motor, money, matters. Hopefully you get the gist here with the beginning of the letters. So then we go down here, and it's actually going to be B, but, or both. And by both, I mean the sensory and motor. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. When I say both, I mean it includes sensory and motor. So we have some say money matters, but let me draw some arrows here. But my brother says big brains matter most. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna go too overkill with this. But the beginning of all of them kind of indicate what type of fiber types. So if it begins with an S, like some say, it'll be sensory. If it begins with an M, it's going to be motor. And if it has a B, like butt, brother, big brains, those mean both. And the only one that's a tiny bit misleading is the trigeminal nerve here because, V1 and V2 obviously both have only sensory, and then the mandibular division obviously has both. So when you're doing this acronym, some say money matters, but on this one, you kind of just have to know that when it means both, it's only talking about the mandibular division. But I hope this acronym is helpful. It really helped me when I was learning these, so I hope it's helpful to whoever's watching this as well. So if we go down, we're going to get into the more specific fiber types. So before I go into what each nerve kind of innervates and its functions, I wanted to talk about special sensory and pharyngeal innervation because in my last video I went over somatomotor, visceromotor, somatosensory, and viscerosensory, but I did not go over special sensory and pharyngeal because those are specific cases. So special sensory is just going to be the innervations for the 5 special senses. So we have touch, taste, smell, sight, and then hearing. Balance can also be included in this. Okay, so that one's pretty self-explanatory. It's just the five senses. Pharyngeal is going to be structures derived from pharyngeal arches. And I'm not going to go into this anymore right now because, like I said, this is just a basics video to be from to start to get familiar with the fiber types and what they kind of innervate for the cranial nerves. So these come from pharyngeal arches. That has to do with development and embryo development as we grow. So that's a little complicated and I don't want to go into that too much right now. So those are what those two mean. So as you can see here, each nerve has different innervation types. I have color coded the pink ink to be what the nerve innervates, or I have in here function, like what the function is. So let's just go through these real quick. So cranial nerve 1, which is the olfactory nerve, that one is going to be responsible for the special sense of smell, pretty straightforward. Cranial nerve 2, which is the optic nerve, is going to be the special sensory of sight. And then cranial nerve 3, which is oculomotor, has two different fiber types going on. So two different types of innervation. The first one is somatomotor, which is going to be eye movement. We have little, very, very tiny muscles in our eyes. And remember, muscle is voluntary. So somatomotor, skeletal muscle, it's going to be voluntary. So that makes sense. Visceromotor is going to be pupils slash lenses. And what's interesting is pupils actually, when our eyes are very dilated and when our pupils are very dilated, that usually indicates an increase in sympathetic innervation. And I talked about sympathetic versus parasympathetic innervation in my last video. Just a fun fact. I've had people ask me before, like, holy crap, your eyes are so dilated right now. Like, your pupils are so dilated. Are you okay? And like, usually I'm in a more anxious state, which is the fight or flight response, which is with sympathetic innervation. So let's continue to cranial nerve 4, which is the trochlear nerve. So we have only somatomotor innervation here. So that is also going to be eye movement. Moving on to the trigeminal nerve. So as you can see, V1 through V3 all have somatosensory, and all of these are going to be touch. And then we have pharyngeal for just V3, which is the mandibular division, which is going to be the muscles of mastication. And that comes from a pharyngeal arch. I cannot remember the pharyngeal arch off the top of my head. It might be pharyngeal arch number 2, but don't read me on that. I didn't look that up or anything. That's just coming from memory. I don't think that's right, though. I have no idea. Moving on to cranial nerve 6, we're going to have the abducens nerve, and this one only has somatomotor, and this is also going to be eye movement, similar to cranial nerve number 4, being trochlear, and as well as cranial nerve 3, which is oculomotor. Oh my gosh, I misspelled movement. Look at that. My contacts are drying out, so my vision gets a little bad. Cranial nerve 7, which is the facial nerve, we're going to have special sensory, which is responsible for taste. Sorry about that. My iPad is really sensitive sometimes. We have visceromotor, which is going to be the facial glands, and that makes sense. Viscera motor, meaning viscera, which is involuntary movement. We can't tell our facial glands to activate, so that makes sense. And then we have pharyngeal innervation here, which is for the facial expression muscles, which also come from pharyngeal arches. I'm just going to put an M for muscles. We have cranial nerve 8, which is going to be the vestibulocochlear nerve, which this is going to be responsible for hearing / balance. So it has special sensory innervation. We have cranial nerve 9, which is the glossopharyngeal nerve. which has 3 different fiber types. We have somatosensory, which is going to be responsible for the touch sensation of the tongue. Touch, or actually, I'll just put, oh my gosh. Sorry for my little errors going on. I'm just going to put tongue touch. And then we have special sensory, which is going to be the tongue as well, but the taste aspect. And then we have viscera motor, which is going to be the parotid gland. I can't remember if there's any other glands right now, but all I have written down is parotid gland. So it might be something to look into. But for now, just know the parotid gland for cranial nerve 9. Cranial nerve number 10, we have viscera motor. So that is going to be responsible for gut movement as well as innervation to the heart. That is something that is really important to remember. Just draw a cute little heart there, that the vagus nerve innervates the heart. That is one of the things that you should never forget. For cranial nerve number 10, aka the vagus nerve. Did I say vagus nerve when I said heart? Oh my gosh, I really hope I did. Anyway, the vagus nerve innervates the heart, and it also has pharyngeal innervation to the larynx slash pharynx muscles. I pronounce those weird, but you get the gist. So those are also pharyngeal arch derived. Moving up to our last 2 nerves here, we have cranial nerve 11 and 12, both which have somatomotor innervation. So for 11, our spinal accessory nerve, that is going to be responsible for the trap muscle, trapezius muscle. I just don't really feel like spelling it out right now. And also the sternocleidomastoid. Oh my gosh, I'm really hoping I'm spelling that right. That's one of the big muscles kind of on the neck. And then for cranial nerve 12, which is the hypoglossal, that is going to be the tongue. I believe the tongue muscles. Yeah, tongue muscles. And those are the general specific fiber types. And then it's going to be the, in general, this is what these nerves innervate. Like I said, this is very surface level. Each of these nerves innervate very specific muscles. So like very specific muscles of the eye, very specific muscles of the tongue, very specific sections of the tongue, but I didn't want to go into that. This is a very basic level video, in my opinion, of what I'm doing here. I just wanted to do a general video on getting a sense of what the cranial nerves are and what they do. I didn't, I obviously didn't show the actual anatomy part of this. This is more so just kind of like, what are the cranial nerves? What are their fiber types? I really do like neurology and going over the nervous system type of structures. So I will be doing further videos probably in relation to the cranial nerves. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for watching this. Subscribe for more content like this, as well as vlog type content and lifestyle content and things related to me applying to medical school about in a year and a half now. I'm finishing up undergrad soon, and yeah, I just like posting videos. So thanks for watching.